this week, Bernie Sanders showed his anti-big money campaign is bringing in big money. He raised $26 million in the third quarter, just $2 million less than Hillary Clinton, but most of it from small donors. Strong financial numbers can, of course, lead to big endorsements. The one many Democrats are waiting for these days is Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, the financial reform advocate who has become the leading voice, perhaps, of the progressive left. But she's not given the nod to anyone yet. We tried to see where her loyalties lie at the Atlantic's Washington Ideas Forum. You were one of many female Democratic senators to sign a letter a few years ago urging Secretary Clinton to run. Should that be seen as an endorsement in itself?
No, she's running along with other people, and they're getting their ideas out there, and I think that's what should happen during this part of the season.
So you just wanted her to run?
Well, I want everyone who wants to run for president to get out there, put their ideas out there, talk about their ideas with the American people. That's how it should be. That's how democracy is supposed to work.
I think that you and Bernie Sanders align fairly closely on all the major issues. When you decide who to endorse, is it just going to be about who you agree with the most, or will you be taking other things into consideration, such as who has a better chance of being the nominee or winning in November?
Look, at this moment, I don't know because I'm not there. What I do know is that people are out talking about these key ideas, and I think that's exactly the right thing to do. I think we should be talking about Glass-Steagall. I think we should be talking about the role that the major financial institutions play, not just in this economy, but play in the political sphere.
Do you disagree with the idea that you and Bernie Sanders seem to be more closely aligned on issues than you are with other Democrats running for president?
Do you want to ask this 6 different ways?
That's kind of my job.
Yeah, well, and kind of my job is to get out there and to keep pushing these issues. You know, I will say this. Bernie gets out and he fights for what he believes in. He fights from the heart on these issues. And I think he's done an enormous service by pushing them forward into the agenda. I think that Secretary Clinton has also been pushing forward issues into the agenda that are really important.
What do you make of the fact that two of the leading Republican presidential candidates, Donald Trump and Jeb Bush, are now both endorsing closing the loophole when it comes to hedge fund managers, the carried interest loophole?
It means that even when your ears are stuffed with money, you get a little sound that comes through. And that's what's happening here. It's like, hello, billionaires should not be paying taxes at a lower rate than teachers and firefighters. And that has even seeped through to a few of the rich guys on the other side. Stunner.
Obviously, your position in supporting Planned Parenthood is well established. The reason that Planned Parenthood purportedly was in front of the congressional hearing was because of these videotapes of Planned Parenthood officials saying and doing things that even Planned Parenthood questioned in terms of the glibness. Is there nothing on the videotapes that you saw that bothers you at all?
Look, let's remember what we were debating on the floor of the United States Senate, and that was defunding Planned Parenthood. 2.7 million people get their health care from Planned Parenthood every year. 1 in every 5 women in America, sometime in her life, will get her health care from Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood, what does it mostly do? 97% of what Planned Parenthood does is about cancer screenings, about screenings for STDs, about birth control. Planned Parenthood is in more than half of all of the Planned Parenthood clinics are in places where there's limited access to health care. So this, for many people, for many women, is their only health care provider, sometimes their principal health care provider. And the Republicans say the first issue that we've got to discuss, and the number one thing, everything else can go forward on the budget or not go forward, or we can cut everything else. The first thing we've got to do is defund Planned Parenthood. That means defunding health care for women. And make no mistake, what this is really about is about women's access to abortion. And even though not one federal dollar goes to pay for abortions through Planned Parenthood, the Republicans want to find one more way to make it harder, to make it impossible for a woman who is facing one of the most difficult decisions of her life. They want to find a way to make it harder on her to get the health care she needs. And all I can say is, we've been in that world before. When I talk about 1955, I'm talking about a world where women died. I'm talking about a world where women committed suicide rather than go forward with a pregnancy they could not handle. And what the Republicans are saying is they want to go back, and I want to make it clear, we are not going back. Not now, not ever.
It's too bad they're not doing a straw poll here.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you something. We are doing a straw poll. It's called the 2016 elections. And the Republicans want to get out there and they want to run on shutting down women's access to cancer screenings and shutting down women's access to birth control and shutting down women's access to not government paid for abortions. Then they're going to have a real fight on their hands. Let them do it.
You've been a longtime advocate for financial reform, and in the past, there have been words between you and then Senator Joe Biden. Mm-hmm. You have disagreed very sharply.
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
You bet. Yeah. And it was over bankruptcy laws that the credit card companies wanted to just tighten those bankruptcy laws so they could squeeze some more profits out of working families. And Senator Biden was on one side in that fight, and I was on the other. And you better believe I didn't hold back.
Are you still on opposite sides of those issues?
On that issue, yeah.
There is a move in Congress right now to replace the director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau with a five-person bipartisan panel. Yep. Some of the Democrats in the House that have expressed support for it say it will be a protection for if a Republican is ever in the White House.
I'm sorry, not just some of the Democrats said that. That's what the president of the American Bankers Association came out and said yesterday. He said he is so worried about this consumer agency that has forced the largest financial institutions in this country to return more than $10 billion to families they cheated. He is so worried about keeping that agency up and strong that he wants to make sure there is a five-person commission like there is over at the SEC, because that's really going to keep the CFPB strong.
You don't buy it?
Do I look dumb?
The answer, of course, no.